Welcome back to another Healing Conversation podcast with your favorite self-care coach and motivator, Addie Speaks. Today, we have a phenomenal guest on here. Her name is Dr. Mandy Fresh Frederic. She's my sister, a prayer warrior, a wife, an author of many best-selling books, a great mother, and a phenomenal entrepreneur. Today, she will be discussing on how to set boundaries, how to overcome fear, and how to stand in your God-given purpose with confidence. So I cannot wait for her to share her enlightenment. But before she go ahead and do that, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Well, everybody, my name is Dr. Mandy Fresh Johnson. Some of you guys may know me as First Lady Johnson. I co-pastor with my husband at House of Love Ministries in sunny South Florida. I'm also the founder of Discover the Beauty Woman Empowerment Organization. Also the founder of God's Queen Cosmetics. And yes, I'm also an author of The God Confidence. So I have a couple of hats that I wear.
Yes, thank you so much for introducing yourself. So let's get into it. So I want to ask you a question on boundaries. With so many hats that you wear, how do you figure out ways to set boundaries in every area of your life?
That is a great question. So it goes into saying, how do you manage your time?
Yes.
Right? We understand that time is extreme. I'm trying to arrange the camera where you can see me correctly. We understand that time is extremely important. That is something that you cannot get back. So you have to learn how to arrange your time in a way that you can do what you're called to do. And of course, make sure you don't have time wasters, people calling you, wasting your time when you know you got things to do. So just aligning your time correctly and making sure that you're putting things in order.
And so that is a very great response. So with that being said, at any point of your life, did you find it difficult to set boundaries? Was it hard for you in the beginning?
I did find it difficult because I didn't understand in the beginning who I was. I did not understand the mandate that God has placed in my life. I did not know what boundaries was until certain things begin to happen. Okay. Until, certain boundaries begin to cross and it was no longer conducive for me. So I had to set boundaries because with me not setting boundaries, I was getting hurt in the process. So I had to learn to set boundaries, right? I had to learn to respect myself enough to set boundaries.
Right. I love that response. I really love that response. So you had to learn how to set boundaries. So how did you overcome that fear to set those boundaries?
How did I overcome that fear? Well, first of all, in everything that I do it unto the Lord, right? The Bible declares that we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and wonderful are the works of God's hands. So if I know that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made by God, I have to respect what God has created, and by putting my life in order, doing what I need to do to make sure that I respect the guideline. Because, and I believe in the last live that we have, I begin to say that even God has boundaries, right? He told the ocean how far you can go. He told the sun how long you can stay out. He told the moon, the time you can come up and when you can go down. When we look throughout Bible, throughout history, boundaries was established. Even God gives people the opportunity for a day of rest. So if God has boundaries, me being created in his image and his likeness need to establish boundaries as well. Because when we fail to do that, we open ourselves for the enemy to run rampant in our lives. When we fail to do that, not have boundaries, it causes the purpose of God that he has placed on the inside of you to be stifled. You can't move forward with a broken heart. You can't move forward being distracted with side chatter. You can't move forward when everybody has your ears. There has to be some kind of boundary that you put in place. Come on, somebody. Some kind of boundary that you put in place to make sure that you're going in the direction that God has called you to do. And I said earlier in the conversation, we entertain time wasters. You'll have people call you all times of the day, or you just conversation that is not conducive to where you're going. When you know who you are and you understand how fearfully and wonderfully you were created, you'll put certain boundaries and things in place to make sure that if it does not align with who I am and where I'm going, it cannot stay.
I love that response. So my next question would be, what are three boundaries or that you can say that you set? So because I know that sometimes I would be like, hey, I can't be on the phone at this time. I can't go out at this time, or I can't do certain stuff. So what are some name boundaries that you can say that you set?
Well, I guess it depends on who you have around you, right? So I there's a lot of people that I have around me that I highly regard and I respect, but I had to come to a place where I regard and respect myself, right? Like I told you before, I had no boundaries for myself. So, I'm over here trying to see what this person was doing, what that person was doing, to the point where I begin to engulf the person life with my life, right? When I got to a place to understand, because me going through different seasons of therapy, because I had to get into therapy to understand, like, hey, you're important too. Hey, you got purpose too. Hey, what God has placed on the inside of you, God needs. So you can't intertwine who you are so much with other people that you lose focus on yourself. So I had to go through that process of knowing that, Dr. Mandy, you're important too. Dr. Mandy, you have value too. Hello, somebody. And if they can't see your value, they cannot stay. Or if they can't see your value, you cannot intertwine who you are so much with what other people have going on, to the point where you lose yourself in the process. So that's what I had to basically put in place. I'm over here stuttering.
Very great response. So before we end the live, so what are three self-care tips that you can say that you applied in your life to set boundaries, to gain confidence, and to overcome fear?
So number one, the first step that I did is basically get into the presence of God, get into my creator, getting to knowing him, because when I know him, I know myself. When I understand the plans that he has created for me, it allowed me to set certain boundaries, like, okay, this is not conducive for my life, because this is not what he said concerning my life, right? So if it's not looking how my heavenly father say it should be, then it cannot stay. If it's not looking in the direction that he has called me to go into, then I can't partake into it. Here's for an example. You have a certain business venture that you're going after, but yet you have other people calling you to be a part of what they have going on. They're calling you to join this business. They're telling you there's a new opportunity that opened over here. They're telling you to go over there. But then again, God has given you a specific blueprint that he wants your life to go, which is a boundary, right? That is a specific boundary and the direction that he's giving you for your life. When we step outside of that, what tends to happen? We tend to mismanage our time. So me understanding where God has called me, the environment and the ground he has planted me, it alleviates me from doing so many things that are considered good, but it's not really God. Okay. So I utilize that. Number one, get into God's presence. Okay. After you get into God's presence, he gives you the download on what he wants you to do in now season, right now, and the direction he has, that he wants you to go into. Once you have that, people can't pull you from the east, the west, north, and the south, because you're grounded and you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing in real time. Okay. Number two, loving yourself, knowing that, okay, if this is not conducive to who I am, if it's making me feel a certain way, meaning if me trying to be within your circle is making me feel that I don't have value, that what I bring to the table is not enough, then you're probably not my people. So I have to rearrange, because that's number two, rearrange the environment that you put yourself into, or that you said that God led you to, when he did. Because any environment that is not conducive for your growth, it's not going in the direction that that God is telling you to go, you cannot stay there. Because what tends to happen is, when you go beyond your boundaries, beyond your scope, into an environment that God has not called you into, then this is where hurt, pain, all this other stuff start to arise, because you're not in proper alignment with where you're supposed to be. Okay. Number three, listen, know thyself. Know thyself. When you know thyself and you know thy worth, okay, you will feel comfortable setting boundaries. You will be okay with saying no. You will be okay with saying, you know what, no, I can't do this. I got too much going on in my life. I can't afford to be sidetracked. I can't afford, to be going in a way that God never called me to go. So that's how you three things I can say that a person can implement right now to make sure that they're setting their boundaries and being aligned.
That's amazing. So we're watching our environment and we're watching the people that we give time to, and we are also watching the people who we are giving ourselves to. So that's a very good response. So what are some self-care activities that you even do on yourself when you're spending time alone? Because again, I know that you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a pastor, you wear these many hats. How do you still care for Mandy Frederic, Mandy Johnson?
So as you can see, because I haven't lose my weight yet, right? Mandy like to eat. So I take myself out, or I'll go to the mall just to take a walk, just breathing fresh air, just to get out of the norm. Just do things that I like to do on my own. I like to go to the movies. I like to go to the restaurants. I'll go to the mall, maybe do a little shopping at Bed and Bath and Body, buy me some sprays, candles. These things make me feel good. So I do what makes me feel good. You know what I'm saying? Or even exercise. See, I have not been exercising, so I can't lie. Okay, but I'm going to implement that. But things that make me feel good as a person, that reassures me who I am as an individual outside of all the other responsibilities that I have going on. And when I do these things, it just heighten my awareness. It just brings me to a woosah, a calm place. So when I do these things, I'm good. Coach Addie. Hello. So anyhow, whoever's talking to you, tell them to go, because we're in an interview.
So I'm going such a good response. You already know what's going on over here.
Yes, ma'am.
So I really appreciate you sharing your story. I really appreciate you sharing many ways someone can take initiative of their life, of their growth, of their understanding, of their belief, and to care for themselves. And sometimes it may require you to remove yourself, and be okay with that, because in that time, that is your time with God and getting to know yourself. So again, I really appreciate you coming on, being a special guest here on the Healing Podcast. Everybody, please take notes. Okay, these are stuff to implement in your life to see yourself in to see yourself in a better light, you know, the best version of yourself without any distraction. So again, please stay tuned for the next episode, and do keep in mind, we do have an event coming up July 2nd. Stay tuned for that announcement, and you guys have a self-care day. Let me see you. Let me see you.